This is my first winter living somewhere where it snows. It still has that magic for me, and I set out to create a piece that shares this wonder. I live in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania's capital, and it's a city full of historic buildings. The additive nature of older buildings means there are new sections built right beside or right on top of the original structures, which creates an atmosphere of organized chaos. If you know where to look, there are secret backyards to be found, volunteer plants reaching through the cracks in the brick, and murals and graffiti mingling in alleyways. I've come to love these hidden places, especially when I alone am their sole witness. I practice finding beauty in the mundane. That is the attitude I brought to this piece. I wanted to tell a story that captured the beauty of an alleyway in winter. Alleys are transitional spaces, places you are only in as you move through them to your destination. Because of this, their design is not intended to invite you to stay and sit. But if you do, if you take the time to sit and watch, you can, in essence, become part of the scenery for a while and see all the other creatures which are passing through. Cars and pedestrians are not the only travelers. Small flocks of birds are offered ample seating in the wires that lace from pole to pole. A stray cat or dog may wander by, enjoying a quiet moment. And of course, there's the snow. I'm learning its different types, and on this day it was perfect packing snow, filling the alley with puffy wet flakes. How do you tell your audience the emotional tone of your artwork? One of the most universal tools artists use is color. Unfortunately, what colors represent which ideas is not an exact science. Color symbolism is different across time, context, and culture, and it is impossible to categorize them into one codified system. But there is common ground. The Kiki Boba effect describes the human nature to assign different traits to inanimate objects. I'll summarize by saying that in the experiment, people were asked to assign the names Kiki and Boba to nonsensical shapes. Overwhelmingly, the subjects assigned Kiki to the pointy shape and Boba to the round one. Although not a 100% consensus, participants seem to have some shared instinct. It is a similar shared instinct that helps us to communicate abstract emotional messages through music, art, design, and film. I chose my color palette for the whole piece because of the sky. I wanted it to be the pastel pinks and blues of early sunlight through hazy clouds. These two colors together are fun and childlike, as most pastels are. To harmonize the buildings with the sky, I chose an analogous color scheme with pinks, purples, blues, and greens. Don't worry, we'll talk more about color schemes later. If you look at environments in the snow on a cloudy day, you'll notice that shadows seem very dark, but the brightest areas feel toned down as well. This is because even though everything is covered with a white reflective surface, the sun's light is being diffused behind the clouds. Given these clues in the color, you can tell what time of day it is, what the weather is like, but what about the emotion? What is telling you that this is a happy, hopeful scene? Well, it's the balance of warm and cool. By adding in pinks, I made this winter scene happy. If it were all cool colors, the emotional tone would be different. It would feel colder, perhaps even bleak. The mood conveyed would be sullen. If that were my goal, maybe I wouldn't have included the Christmas lights at all, and made the cat black and white. Choosing color for your artwork comes down to understanding color theory and the emotional associations that go along with certain colors. Colors are divided into 3 surface level categories. They're divided by hue, saturation, and value. And below that, you have them divided into warm colors and cool colors. Using a color wheel, you can chart all of the different combinations that you can make, and there are a lot of different combinations. Each of these creates a color scheme, which you can use to convey different things in your artwork. Alley Cat in January uses an analogous color scheme, and you can tell because they all sit next to each other on the color wheel: pink, purple, blue, and green. It has 3 cool colors and 1 comparatively warm color. Each color comes with a positive and negative emotional association. So for today's video, I've compiled a bunch of beautiful artwork from master artists, and each one corresponds to a color on the rainbow, plus black and white. And then I'll be talking about the emotional associations that go with each of these colors, and I'll be giving you a little thought exercise to imagine an object and imagine the emotional resonance that goes along with the color of that object. Just remember that all the interpretations I'm going to be talking about today are not like the end-all be-all of what this color means. These interpretations are based on your cultural background, your media exposure, or your personal experience. So we're going to start with red. Some positive associations with red would be passion, high energy level, excitement, your lifeblood, or even sexuality. Some negative associations with red, obviously, would be blood, or danger, or a warning sign. And I want you to think about, how does a red dress make you feel, as opposed to seeing a red stoplight? Next up is orange. Some positive associations with orange would be the rising or setting sun, warmth, or a feeling of excitement. Some negative associations with orange could be a feeling of sickness, or a feeling that you're ill at ease, or that you're being overpowered, because orange in a composition can be a very overpowering color if it's used too much. I want you to think about how an orange sunset makes you feel, as opposed to a orange smog in the air from nearby forest fires. Next up is yellow. Yellow has some really lovely positive associations. It's a cheerful color. It reminds you of sunlight, of gold, and of power. On the other side of the spectrum, yellow has some negative connotations as well. Think of danger, think of sickness, or of filth. I want you to think about how a field of yellow blooming daffodils makes you feel, as opposed to old and sickly peeling yellow wallpaper. Now we're on to green. Some positive associations with green are nature, feeling of relaxation or calmness, or a period of growth. Green is also negatively associated with greed or jealousy, or again, sickness. I want you to think about how taking a walk in the spring when everything is just starting to leaf out and come back again makes you feel, as opposed to the unnatural green tint that fluorescent lights overhead give off. Next up is blue. Blue has some positive associations, things like spirituality, the water, being calm or feeling stable. Some negative associations with blue are depression, or the cold, or darkness. I want you to think about how a clear sky makes you feel, as opposed to deep, still, blue bodies of water. Now on to purple. Some positive associations with purple are magic, or wealth and extravagance, and the power that comes with that. On the other hand, overwhelming purple can feel very unnatural. It can give off feelings of irreverence or arrogance. Think about how a bundle of lavender makes you feel, as opposed to the hue of a fresh bruise. Now we're finished with the rainbow and we're moving on to white. White has the positive association of light, of cleanliness, holiness, and purity. White can also have the negative connotations of feeling cold and sterile, feeling artificial, like overpowering technology. Think of how a white wedding gown makes you feel, as opposed to a sterile hospital room. Now we're into black. Black has some positive associations of power and elegance, of the night, and of sexuality. On the other hand, black is the color of mourning, of darkness, of the unknown, and mysteries. I want you to think about how a black suit and tie make you feel, as opposed to the vast emptiness of space. Color is a visual language, although its meanings are not universal. I hope today's video has inspired you to take a closer look at artwork to see how it's using color to tell its story. The more artwork you study and create, the more you'll be able to use color to tell your own story. Almost everything I've learned about color theory has come from these two books. These were my textbooks in college, my freshman year. There's Vision by Hans P. Bacher. And then, of course, there's Color and Light by James Gurney. So James Gurney is a very famous oil painter, the creator of Dinotopia. This book is really great for people who want to learn about how to mix oil paint and how to use that to their advantage. Vision is more about color in film, but since it's a visual medium, it's directly applicable to both digital and traditional illustration. I want to thank you for watching, and if you liked the piece of art I was making in the first half of the video, you can buy a print of that in my online shop. My link is in the description below. Like, comment, and subscribe so that you can see what I make for you next time.